Welcome to Dear Art Producer, a podcast connecting the photography and video community with art producers. Drawing on her agency experience some years ago, photography agent Heather Elder penned an open letter to art producers discussing the finer points of working with one another. This podcast takes that idea and will introduce you to different art producers, share the stories of their diverse career paths, explore what it means to stay relevant, and examine industry topics such as marketing, estimating, directing, websites, and more.
Hi, welcome to Dear Art Producer. I am your host, Heather Elder, and today we welcome Melanie Trombly, Senior Art Producer at VSA Partners in Chicago. Melanie started her career in catalog houses, then after a brief time living in New Zealand, moved her way into producer and studio manager for a local Chicago photographer. And after 18 years on the production side, she moved to the agency side where she is now and loving it. Hi.
Hello.
How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you so much for seeing me. I know we had a little blip there earlier. Yeah. Sorry for not checking my email,
okay.
But
blissfully the meeting canceled. So
okay, good. I love that.
Stuff keeps moving.
I love that. Stuff keeps moving, right? Doesn't that always happen, especially in our industry?
Yes.
Yeah. Tell us a little bit though about you and your path to getting here. When you sent me your little blurbs about your stuff, your time in New Zealand was interesting to me, but you didn't elaborate on that. Did you do production while you were there?
No.
Okay.
I wanted to do something completely opposite. So let's see, I worked in a warehouse. I worked as a tiler.
Awesome.
I worked in a hotel you could only get to by foot or by boat for a while. I worked in a Mexican-themed restaurant owned by an Irish guy.
Wow.
And I think that they hired me because I could pronounce Baja and jalapeno correctly. So, yeah.
That's great. Okay, so you got a lot of life experiences that you brought back to you to production.
Yeah. It's so I started out, I kind of ended up in catalog houses kind of on accident. So I was touring with my friend's band selling t-shirts across North America. So between tours, the tour manager said, hey, my upstairs neighbor is a studio manager at a photo studio and they're moving. You can make $85 a day if you want to help them move. I'm like, $85? This was in the mid-90s.
Right.
That was a lot of money.
Yeah.
So I did that and then moved, literally moved them and then got into set building, started working in the merchandise department. And then when I went on tour again, because it was all freelance, they said, hey, do you want to do this when you come back? I'm like, yeah, this is fun. So I was still in school going for graphic design. And then I just kind of decided that I liked photo studios more.
Interesting.
So I worked in the merchandise department, and then that kind of led its way to getting into the production side of things and working for a one-man studio photographer. And he did catalogs and commercial stuff as well. And then so I worked for him for 3 years, and then I saw a thing about New Zealand. This is the early 2000s when it was easier to do such things.
Pick up and move.
The internet. There was less internet than literally less internet. So I got a working holiday visa. So I sent in my application, and a couple of days later I called because you had to call to make sure that they got a FedEx because FedEx didn't really have the online stuff.
Right.
I was telling some people here that and they're younger. They're like, really?
I forgot about that.
Yeah.
That's
so
funny.
I called to make sure that they got it. And they're like, yeah, you got it. I'm like, no, you received my FedEx.
Yes.
Yes, you got it. No, you received my FedEx. Yes, we received your FedEx. Yes, you got your visa. You'll get your passport back in a couple of days. I'm like, ooh. I'm going to have to quit my job.
Oh, that's funny.
So it was fun. So, and then, so originally it was for a year. And then I was able to lengthen it for another year. So I ended up being there about a year and a half. I came back to visit Chicago and kind of saw it with whole new eyes. So I appreciated things that
I bet.
I had been tired of. I'm like, oh, wow, this is great. So kind of fell in love with Chicago all over again.
And how did you end up here at VSA?
Actually, when Sari Rowe, who I replaced, were friends, so she was moving on, and she kind of knew that I was looking to get back in the consumer side of things. I've been at Abelson Taylor for 3.5 years, and pharma's great, pharma's fine. 3.5 years of pharma for me personally was... I feel like I got to work on one of everything several times. So I feel like it's just kind of
time to do something different.
Also getting to work with non-medically accurate illustrations has been kind of fun to work on things that are...
That's funny.
Yeah, the medically accurate illustrations will...
That's a lot.
They're very accurate and they're very interesting to look at. Moving on. But so they do a lot of really great design work here. fun fact, the 3 agencies I've been on staff with have all been independent.
Oh,
so I did freelance at Razorfish and Digitas, but that was obviously part of Publicis and all that. Yep. But getting to work at some of the last independent agencies has been kind of nice. I like seeing the owners. I like knowing who's in charge and who's steering the ship. It's not some anonymous, head
Was
office.
the culture at each one of those agencies similar?
No, a little bit different. The other consumer one was really laid back, similar to here. The pharma one was a little bit more serious, a little bit more bookish. Just different cultures that way. This one really suits me. There's a lot of thoughtful spaces they have for us to work at. And then there's also a rooftop deck here in the building, which is great. Nice. Yeah, with Wi-Fi. So I was working up there yesterday. Yeah. Last week, the Air and Water Show was in town. I could watch the Air and Water Show while working on emails. Yeah, it's kind of nice.
That's great.
So, so it's been fun being here. So
you've been to a lot of different places. Mm-hmm. I'm wondering what changes you're seeing happening in the industry.
Well, it might be a reflection of the agencies that I've personally been at. Since we both, this one and my last one, do a lot of illustrations. Mm-hmm. And the last one did a lot of CGI work, which I actually really loved, as we were talking about earlier. So it's not just photography, but sometimes a mix of those things. And it's interesting seeing how CGI can be a smarter solution for certain things like packaging. Yep. If you're shooting packaging, as we did at the last agency, there's so many different languages that you have to put on there. So it's smarter to just create the packaging to the specs from the client in CGI and then be able to translate everything and just rewrap the, all the medical stuff on the back if it's like files.
And you as an art producer were managing that. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't just photography, obviously. Right. Yeah. Which is a big change than how it used to be, because I always said, I used to have 100% of your attention. Right. Yeah. And now I don't at all. And photography isn't the only solution to your kind of visual challenge.
Right. Yeah. So. So it's so it's interesting having seen that evolve. I think at the moment, we hire more illustrators than perhaps the average agency does. Mm-hmm. I don't know if it might just be indicative of the clients that we have, since we do a lot of packaging and design work and a lot of internal things for a couple of clients.
Do you work on motion?
Animations for illustrations, yes. Mm-hmm. If it moves, that's the motion broadcast producer. Right. My running joke is, if it moves, it's him. If it's still, it's me. Okay. So if they're like, I don't know who to talk to. I mean, we help each other too. Of course. So collaborating on, if there's going to be like a shadow still shoot on the back end of like a TV production, things like that. That hasn't come up here just yet. And Brian was just hired last week, actually. So we're still.
And Brian is the motion
he's
person?
The motion producer. Okay. Yeah. So, so it's kind of nice. We all sit in a little collective pod over there. So we're helping. And then I've gotten to learn some of the actual like printing production process a little bit. So
that's great.
Yeah, which is kind of it's interesting to me because I did photography production for so long, and it was just like this tiny little narrow window. I didn't know what came before. I mean, I had an idea, of course, but didn't know what came after it. I just was focused on getting the merchandise shot, hiring the models, securing locations, getting things like that done, wrapping the invoice. Photographer sends off their stuff. You ship the merchandise back or whatever happens, depending on whatever, if it was a catalog shoot or a commercial, like an advertising shoot, whatever you had to do. But it's been interesting seeing how the thought processes with the concepting, how the ideas come about, how the creatives and the account people have to work together to present that to a client and get them to sign off on all these ideas, especially in pharma, because it's very, obviously there's a lot of steps
on the timeline.
Yes. Yeah. Yes. Very different than consumer. So consumer moves a little bit quicker, which kind of suits my personality. So, then you've got the shoot, and then afterwards getting to work on some of the retouching and how those assets are used down the line. And sometimes, especially at pharma, months and months and months would go by, sometimes years. And then like, wow, you guys are still building that banner ad? Has this not launched? But that's why we put in, the usages from data first use.
Of course. Because it's such a smart thing to do, because you just don't know when that's finally going to, be ready.
Yeah. Especially with pharma, with the FDA, like there might be some hang up at the last minute, which that happens a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. So I talk to a lot of freelancers, and so many of them are grateful for the experiences they have from, beginning to end, and not just the photo shoot production. So it's great hearing, more people who are in agencies being given the opportunity to learn more of the process, so that you can, be more of a producer that goes beyond just the photo shoot. Yeah,
it's nice because working with photographers, if it is a shoot, knowing that it's like, hey, is this going to be easier to fix in post, like 30 seconds in post, or is it like 2 minutes in camera? Let's do the smart one.
And that affects you on set, being able to make that decision and, direct the shoot that way.
Yeah. So that helps. And then getting to be on the set and working with, the account team, the client engagement, whatever they're called, to help explain that to the client if they don't know, just trying to like mitigate any issues like that. And then also my experience having done photography production for years, when lofty ideas are being bandied about before a shoot, I can speak to some of the cost implications of like, oh, this is a nice to have thing. Like, say if you're taking a picture from a headshot to a full body,
right.
Well, the wardrobe budget was for t-shirts. So now we need to put pants on them. Do we need to see their feet?
Right.
Because that's shoes. Do we need accessories, or is that too much? Well, what does that mean? Well, honestly, for X amount of people, we're going to need, $8,000 to $12,000 more dollars for wardrobe and stylist time, buying time, returning time, all that. Oh, yeah. So it's fine. We can do it. We can absolutely do it. We do need more money, though. So long as you're able to get us more money, we can do anything that you want.
So that's a good transition into talking about the estimating process. So here at VSA, how does it start? Are you given the brief? Do you help write the scope or the specs? Like where do you come into the process?
It's since I'm newer here, I haven't gotten to be in a lot of that process just yet. Okay. But it's usually they're talking about pitches, they're talking about ideas, and then sometimes the creatives will have photographers in mind or illustrators in mind, as the case may be. They'll send me some people. I'll contact them. I'll look for some similar styles, or if somebody says, "Hey, do you know any portrait shooters in Boston?"
Right.
Oh, yeah, here's some links.
Right.
Maybe it never happens. Maybe it never manifests. Right. But like I send out links, and so of course we did the triple bid. So we get all the numbers lined up. If I have a budget, I do try to share it with the photographer, his producer, his rep or her rep, as the case may be, just so that they're informed.
Sure.
Sharing all the info that I have.
Thank you for that.
Yes. Well, I was on the other side of it, and also trying to save you guys from doing 18 revisions, because it's a time suck, and I know it. And that's kind of what burnt me out on being on the production side. It was just like, you tweak these estimates so much and you're not paid for it. And it takes days of your time. And then you're, as a producer, when text messaging started, that was huge, because then I could just text everybody, hey, please hold. Hey, that got canceled. Hey, move these dates. Are you open?
Right.
Just from a sheer time saving standpoint. But yeah, if I can mitigate that for the vendors, I do. I try.
Yeah, no, it's nice. It's really nice that you do that, because there's so many people that it's hard for them, and they might want to do that, but it's hard because they have clients that have a lot of questions and they want to see a lot of versions, and there are changes, and try this, try that. They're trying to save a job and, give me a revision. So to know that, when the opportunity arises to actually protect us, then, and you're taking advantage of it, that's appreciated.
Yeah. Anything I can do to just kill the unnecessary futilicize, if you will, of
the back and forth.
Yes.
So what can a rep do to help you in this process?
Let's see. I try to have people bid things out. If I don't have a budget, I tell everybody to bid it out the way it should be done. If I need to ask for a favor later, if we need to nip and tuck, I'll address it then. But I start out like, let's bid this the right way.
Right.
I don't want to start out too low, because people get used to that.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, last time it was this. It's like,
of course.
Last time it was a studio shoot and you had one talent. Now you're talking a location shoot with 30 people, and the weather's bad in San Francisco usually. So then we have weather insurance and things like that. So it's like, it's not apples to apples.
Sure.
And explaining to people why that is, like, I always giggle when I get a phone call or an email. How much does a photo shoot cost? From, like a younger account person or project manager, I'm like, how much is a car? Right. Do you want a Yugo or do you want a Lamborghini?
Yeah.
How much is a house? Do you want a shotgun shack? You want a mansion?
Right.
So, and then they kind of get it. And I break it down. I'm like, well, what can you tell me about the shoot? Because I can give you some parameters. Is it a tabletop shoot? Is there going to be a lot of talent? How many talent? How old is the talent? Like, where is it going to be shot? Because then we have to worry about like labor laws and child.
Right.
Yeah, just all the child labor laws and making sure that there's a tutor on set, things like that. Like all these weird little things that people, they don't know because
no, how would they know? It's not their job. Exactly.
So I break that down, and they usually, I find that the account people and the project managers and even the client, like they have a better idea of what they need than they know. So it just pulling that information,
knowing
out.
The right questions to ask them so that you can get the information you need.
Yeah. So it's just different things. I mean, really just, is it a location shoot or is it going to be in a house? Is it going to be in a park? If you want to shoot a stadium shot, that's going to be really expensive. You want to shoot at the aquarium? You know what? We've got a better idea. Why don't we shoot it green screen? We'll buy stock, strip it in with retouchers.
So much less expensive.
We'll do it. There's a smarter way to do this for cost savings and also just like the sheer pain in the neck getting into, access to some of these places. So, and that's where it's been handy working on, the retouching, just the CGI type stuff and knowing what can be done in post in conjunction with photography is really nice. Just knowing that it's like, you don't need to rent a stadium. Like you don't need
to, you have options.
There's options. There's a way to do it. And then, obviously if there's stock involved, making sure that's picked and signed off on so that the photographer can match the lighting and the angles because there's math to it. Not everything can be fixed in post. Right. So it'll look weird. I mean, just like camera angles, like up and down, like there's a geometry of making it look pretty and normal and not fake. So because you don't want it to look like aging myself, but I use the term like, we don't want it to look like color forms.
Right. Oh, I loved color forms.
I know, right? But then
that was
sitting in a room, never like color forms, like paper dolls, except plastic, and they stuck on something. But you don't want an outlined, talent who is shot on white silhouette outlined, and then static, like just floating in space and in the background. So that's stripped in, and it just looks goofy. So you're trying to solve for issues that are gonna. Yeah. I know are going to be a thing later on. So, what about
the creative call?
That's huge. I love creative calls.
Yeah. I always like people when I ask that question and they say, "Oh, that's huge." I always want to say, like, "Can you just repeat that?" Like, that is just such an important part of the process.
It's so much easier that it can be hard nailing down the creatives with their time, like the project I was on earlier this morning. Because it is time consuming for them. And then they have to repeat the same sort of stuff. And, they'll be more enthusiastic at the first one. Yeah. And then one of the last ones, it might be a little bit of a slog because, they've went through this so many times. But for the most part, anybody I've worked with, they understand that's part and parcel. And so they're not, they try to do solid service to, the last call as they did to the first call.
Do they ever come up, do ideas ever get shared in the early calls that then become questions for the later photographers?
Yeah, I guess it depends on what it is. I mean, you try not to share one artist's bright idea with another one because you don't want to give them short shrift. Or conversely, if something's come up where it seems like a solution, I'll contact the photographer and or their rep, if applicable, and say, hey, this came up. We've kind of changed this parameter to this now. As we're thinking through this and talking through this, it seems like we should approach it like this instead of the way we spoke to it. Let me know if you have any questions. If you feel like you need to hop on a quick call again with the creatives, I will certainly try to do that. And sometimes I'm able to speak for the creatives, especially if I work with them for a while, because I get to know what people like and how they think and how they approach things. So, which I like doing. So,
and do you try and provide the creative before the call with a lot of notice? It's funny. Sometimes we are literally getting the creative or the shots list seconds before the call.
Oh, I mean, it's that was just happening on something that's an animation. So it's, we didn't have a shot list till last night, but we've already spoken to people about the broad strokes. We still don't have a signed off shot list. So it's retroactively contacted them with the same thing. It's just things are moving fast. So we're trying to get things lined up, see if you guys are keen, if you can work within the time frame we have. And I know we're doing this backwards, but just trying to be as upfront and get information to the vendors as quickly as I can.
As possible, yeah.
As soon as I have it.
Yeah, with time to think about it.
Yeah.
And be thoughtful about what we're saying on the call.
Yeah, it's it doesn't always work that way, but I sure as heck try. So as soon as I get something, I try to share it so that everybody's on the same page.
What does a bad call look like? And do you have a lot of them?
Fortunately, I haven't had too many of them, but there was one where there was a photographer who their rep and their producer, like everybody got the information. And the photographer was so ill prepared, like late on the call, so ill prepared, and basically blaming the producer and the rep for him having not seen it. And I know his producer is his wife.
Right. Oh, gosh.
So it's not obvious, but I was like, ooh. And then it was just awkward. And it was like this person we'd all been looking forward to talking with. Right. And we all kind of had a crush on this photographer. Like, yeah, no,
this
wow,
is bad
yeah,
energy.
no. It's just like, yeah, no, like you're not prepared. And then you're like you'd expect that from somebody younger, not somebody seasoned. And it was just like, oh, that's a drag.
Question that comes up sometimes in our group when they're scheduling a call. Sometimes it's hard to get that time, right?
Yeah. Oh my
Somebody's
God,
going through security or racing to the airport or in between shoots or something.
Yeah.
And there are photographers who will say, I'm not available for this call because you're not going to get the best of me. I'm going to be distracted. I'm driving and have to drop off my rental car or whatever it is. And when I deliver that news, it's not always the response isn't always favorable because you want to talk, obviously, and the photographer wants to show that they're interested.
Sure.
How do you handle that on your end? Like,
what I would try to do, if that comes up, and I can't really think of any examples when it has, but I certainly understand, like, if you're booked on a shoot, that client wants 100% of your time.
Exactly.
They don't care that you've got another job. That doesn't exist for them. They hired you. They want you. So it's like you want to be respectful of that for the job that you have in your hand. So what I would do is, well, first off, see if the creatives would be willing to talk in the evening after hours. And sometimes like, this is the only time we have. So if you guys can do this, it'll be huge. Most creatives are fine with that. Worst case scenario, I would have, if they can't or won't, if the creatives won't, I would schedule a call with the rep and or producer if possible to speak over the things. And then at a different time when the creative isn't on the line, try to talk with the photographer and or their producer and or their rep about any other questions to kind of go over things that we've learned. If there's any blanks that are filled, trying to make sure that everybody's got the
information, has an opportunity to talk.
But being respectful of the fact that, hey, they're working on another job. So would you want somebody to take a break from a heavy shot list?
Yes, thank you for that.
Yes, like they legit cannot because they are hired. We might hire them, but yeah.
Okay, so what's your point of view of having the reps on the creative call?
Sometimes it's worthwhile, sometimes it's not. It really just depends on the rep and how involved they are with actually doing any of the production, helping mitigate the issues with the photographer, playing bad cop, if you will, on budget stuff that I get. But sometimes it's like they're not, there was a rep who would always want to be on the call and it was like about like post retouching CG stuff. And it's like, you're not adding anything. Let the people. And
sometimes there's too many cooks in the kitchen, So
like,
there are times I'll sit and be on mute and just kind of listen in and maybe take a few notes. But what I really want is to have a separate conversation with you before that call, if possible. So I can make sure we're really clear on what we're doing so that I can set up the photographer to have a successful call.
Yes.
And be prepared and know, like, actually, it looks like it says 4 shots, but it's really 6 shots because it's 4 with 2 variations.
Right.
So as opposed to he or she having to take the creative call to figure out logistics.
Yeah.
And that's not always possible. You're busy. I'm busy. Like sometimes we can't make that call happen ahead of time, but that's always been my preference.
It's just so much better. I don't know how you would do. I mean, unless it's like an illustration job or a simple portraiture job, maybe that was something that I've worked with before or has worked with the client before. Maybe you can get away with not doing it, but I just don't see any way that you cannot have a call,
right?
Because it's just critical.
It's so critical.
And plus, then you just kind of, you're feeling each other out. The creatives like to feel like they're connected to the artist, and that's huge too. So
from where I sit, the calls that are the strongest are the ones where the agency doesn't just read the spec sheet or take us through the deck, right? But that happens a lot because I sit on the calls and it starts with, well, let me take you through this shot, which that is necessary. Like actually talking through the plan, that is important. But it's when the creative teams will share what it is about the photographer's work that they like and why they're being considered, and giving the photographer an opportunity to actually kind of chime in with their vision beyond the execution of the shot list. Yeah,
it's helpful. If I send links to the creatives, or if the creatives have sent it to me, if they can pull some samples of, hey, stylistically, this person's got a lot of work on their site. What specifically, like, what did you do? What did you like the best? And sometimes, like when I worked for a guy in town here, this is a while, like 15 years ago, but he would get calls and somebody would use a sample of something that was like, like a conceptual thing that he did, even though like whatever we were shooting was kind of banal, like lifestyle stuff, like, I don't know, like a golfer holding a club on, on a golf green, whatever. But they would send these like totally beautiful, like edgy kind of fashiony conceptual shoots. Like they want to feel like they're working with somebody that could do that. If only the client would sign off.
Right.
If only the client would let them.
Right.
So, but we have to shoot this golfer.
Yeah, but we like this.
But we really like this. So it's just kind of funny the way stuff would come up. We're like, all right, whatever got you here. But it's funny the way what will catch a creative's eye versus what we end up actually shooting.
Yeah.
But
I call those bridge images the ones that there are images that a creative will be attracted to for a photographer. Yeah. And then there are those bridge images that have to exist so that they can sell you to the client.
Right, exactly, precisely. And then, and I always ask if there's other stuff similar, like, if they, they might get a mood board or something like that, or we have stuff that we've pulled from their site and, hey, these are the layouts. Yeah. Talking through stuff. Hey, if you have anything else that's not on your site, could you send us a PDF of that? I understand, like, you've got a bajillion images. Obviously, you don't want to show all of them,
right?
Because eye exhaustion, but and probably just server size on a website. I don't know however that works, but yeah, just if they come up with a PDF, not necessarily even a treatment, but if they want to. Sometimes we ask for them, sometimes not. Sometimes people just go ahead and do those, and then I feel bad if we didn't actually need them because I want to save their time. I don't want people to work.
So you don't need them on all jobs?
No, not all jobs. I legit try to save them as much work as possible because I know how it is. I've worked in the studios with the shooters. I've been the person having to pull stuff, find stuff, put everything together. Again, going back to too many versions of an estimate, I try to get all the information or like have everything staggered instead of saying, can you change this? Oh, can you change this now? Oh, can you change this now? And Blinkbit is wonderful for that. Because at least you can go.
Do you use Blinkbit?
I did when I was a producer. I loved it. Yeah,
I wish more agencies would use it. It would be really great to share a bid with you. Not that I would want you to make change. Like there'd have to be an interim way so that like, here's my bid. Right. You could then take it and do stuff to it. Then I'd still be able to have access to, like, there should be there's a way that it could work. And I know that Lou has been hoping that it would.
I got it in use at a couple of agencies ago, and people were really into it because it was great for ballparking for me too. And then I was trying to get, hey, you don't have to use Blinkbid, but it's certainly helpful when we're sharing information back and forth.
And then if I'm sending you an invoice in Blink, I mean, it's so seamless. You go from estimate to invoice. I send it to you. Yes. We're all then working off the same format, visually the same way. Like
the motion with the AICP bid, because it's like, photography stills it's still the Wild West.
Yes.
So trying to have anything uniform helps. I mean, we've got, at Ableton Taylor, they had their client facing decks and the way, you do your grid and all that. And then, the creatives, depending on the brand, they might extrapolate some of the information that I present them and put it in their own client facing deck. Sometimes it's like, there's a way that they have to present things to the client for that. So there's not any one way that it's done. And that's how it is here as well. Right. Like they curtail it to curate it, to whichever client it is and how they present things in a uniform manner. Yeah. So sometimes going back to treatments, like if we do need a treatment, the creatives might pull stuff from that and put it in that client-facing deck so that so they can speak to it.
So the treatments aren't always shared with the client. You might pull parts of the treatment to put into your own presentation.
And I'm not in those meetings usually with the client when they present it, but I think sometimes it's helpful. Sometimes it's just, it's not necessary because, hey, it's a small shoe. Don't kill yourself. We just need,
you.
Yes, trying to not kill anybody. But yeah, with just, futility of, oh my God, stuff just takes so long. And you just want to be respectful of people's time because I've been on that side. And so.
What about getting your attention?
I actually I'm one of the people who actually like snail mail.
That's
I actually do. Yeah. It's the emails. I'm still getting used to it here. A couple of agencies ago, they had this really great spam holder. And then, so you'd go to that site and I could release everything. So if I had a half an hour, I'd release everything and look at pretty pictures for a while because I had a half an hour to sit down and look at it.
Oh, so it would kind of hold it into this area and you would have to go in and say like, ooh, that's not spam or I want to see that or whatever. And
I would
then
release everything at once and then take a spin through, which was great. Last agency, so many firewalls. So then not only would you have to release the spam, but then you would have to click on the image to release it again. So I kind of ended up not
It took
doing
a long
that.
time.
It was too much of a hassle.
Who gets through? Who isn't spam? Is it like agency people or could you put people on your list so that like,
well, sometimes I just forget to check my spam folder.
Yeah. How does it know an email from me is spam?
It's arbitrary because it's like at my last agency, and here it's happened too, where I was in contact with somebody, like somebody sending us files or whatever, like an actual live job, and stuff was going to our spam folder. And like one vendor at my last agency, he'd worked with the agency for like 20, 25 years. He was like a constant vendor. We're like, how is Brad's stuff ending up in the junk bin? Because So I would learn to check for that. But, and I keep my junk folder empty and my spam folder empty to make sure nothing gets lost. But sometimes you forget it's a busy day. And some people never clean them out, so they miss it. So then I have to play, wrangling with the creatives.
So when you are looking at sites online, do you have like bookmarks that you keep? Or is it more the snail mail that you keep and you file? Like how do you manage all the content that you receive? So that you could refer back to it later.
We had actually kind of this sounds so goofy, but luxurious cubicles at Abelson Taylor. So I would wallpaper my cube up with stuff that I liked, stuff that I thought might come up. Here we don't have cubes, so it's more open working area. We have assigned desks. But we actually walked by it. I can show you. I started taking over. We've got these metal walls. And people just hang up, mock-ups and layouts and things like that they're working on. Well, I asked the front desk, like, hey, can I just take one over for promos that I like that I think people would like. So I've been putting them up there with magnets.
Excellent.
Just to, sometimes I'll forward an email to, like the Google team. Hey, this is an illustrator I think you'd like. Or, stuff like that. So the emails work sometimes. I'll definitely sign up for people's sites and mark them not spam and all that. But I actually like old-fashioned promos. The books I don't really look at because I'll look online for people.
Do you host portfolio shows here?
Yeah. It's hard because I still haven't gotten to work with all the creatives yet and to get people to show up sometimes.
I know. It's really hard. It's really hard.
So just so people don't get fatigued by it so that they're still excited, I try to limit it to one a month.
Which is great. I remember years ago, Leo Burnett instituted that where it was, or maybe they did it twice a month or something. It was the same day.
Yeah.
It was, from the top down, they required the people to go and see.
Well, that's good.
And they weren't trying to squeeze one person in and now it was 5 a month. It was just like, it was set and really otherwise there's fatigue. You're right. People are not interested and they could go online and see is what their mindset is. So you really do have to set it up in a way so that they are excited because it feels different.
Yeah. It's here. It's more like a rolling start time. It's more flexible time. So I have found that afternoon shows with wine and cheese help.
They help.
Wine, cheese, and snacks. We have the typical beer on draft and, cider in the fridge and stuff like that. So it's pulling people in with a different kind of spread. Yeah. Especially in the afternoon because people are kind of ideally winding down a little bit. And we've got the cafeteria annex. There's a few conference rooms in there, but there's this gorgeous, big, huge table. And
perfect for displaying books.
Yeah, it is. And then there's TVs, there's monitors. Mm-hmm. So Chris, our wonderful IT guy, will help me like hook up the music and the screens and all that. So stuff can be cycling through on those. And it's more casual. It's a casual place to hang out and work in as well. But at lunchtime, people actually, they'll kind of eat at the lunch table. It's very cute. Yes.
That's great.
Yeah, it's.
What about online sites? Are you using them for resources?
Yeah, I mean, it's I feel like the Midwest is so tied to workbook, and that's great. Because you can search through the areas or whatever the styles. I'll have people kind of in my head based on like the styles that maybe are presented to me, or just getting the thought process going. There's certain reps that I know, like, I think, I like this one person. Who else have they got that might be in a different area? Like, people don't necessarily have to live where we're going to shoot anymore. And a lot of people,
that's changed a lot. It doesn't really matter.
Right. I used to have Skype numbers too, and my different offices. But
and people will work as a local, and half the time they know somebody, and it's not an issue.
But the thing with area codes used to be so.
I know.
It's so silly, and then or people having like a New York PO box or something like that to make it look like they were at New York. Nobody cares anymore.
Nobody cares.
No, but that was such a thing.
That was a thing like 20 for a long time ago.
Yeah. So, they're only legit if they've got a New York area code. Right. Whatever. So.
And how about Instagram?
I love Instagram. I love it. For goofy pictures and friends and family pictures. I like the sweet serendipity of everybody's pictures of their dogs or sunsets or whatever. There are some photographers I follow on there. I will look at it if they've got a link on their own site. Yeah. I don't necessarily subscribe to everybody if it's not really,
If a photographer reached out to you to follow you, you would accept them.
Yeah. You're going to be bored of pictures of whatever goofy stuff I put up there. A lot of garden stuff. Some animals and some ridiculous things.
Photographers have asked me to ask, if you don't know the photographer and they friend you or follow you on Instagram and, request.
I don't know if you're able to send a note. I mean, it helps if I've met them, because then I'm like, I want to see what so-and-so is up to. And just, if there's a few people, I don't want to name drop, but there's I don't want to play favorites, but there's somebody who he travels a lot and he'll post little pictures and he'll have one word, up here, sky, green. I just think that's clever, but it's he's always
adding to it, and there's stuff for you're interested in checking it out.
Yeah. And it's not just tied to his page. It's just his daily life of, and there's a bunch of people that do that as well. And I like seeing what they're up to.
And what about meetings? Do you like taking in-person meetings?
Yeah, if I feel like I've got more liberty to do it here. It's I had a little bit of a lull, so people were in town and the weather's good. So I'm like, hey, stop on by. That's fine. So it helps when you meet somebody in
Absolutely.
person. So then, and I really, I went to a couple of the face-to-face things last year.
Did you like that?
I loved them, actually. Because, and I'm going to do Boulevard again. And I would do the Adage face-to-face thing if they had that again. But I thought it was really helpful because it's, you're meeting with somebody and you're going through stuff and you're getting a connection.
Right.
And it's huge. And you're there to just do that.
That's what I like about it. You are completely focused, as opposed to you will have made an appointment with a photographer here, maybe 2 weeks ago. And then they arrive and you're just like, oh my God, I'm busy. I have this and that, but you want to honor their appointment. So you're, not as focused as you would be if you were literally at the event and that's all you need to be doing. Yeah.
There's, sometimes it's, just going back to the whole booking portfolio shows with reps. There's a few groups of reps who kind of travel together, which I love because then you're not lonely. And then, so you guys have your own camaraderie. Then there's more books for people to see. And then it just makes it more a fun little party instead of me and one lonely rep. Guys, you want to look at a book? Guys, look, I got snacks.
Right.
Guys, look at a book. So it's, I feel like that works out well.
It works out really well, and I've done that before.
Yeah.
And when you have a big table, that's great. Being put in a room like this with 2 reps, it wouldn't work.
No.
But I find that when I do co-market with another rep and we do something like that, the people are very sensitive to making sure that we have a big space.
Yeah, it's and there was a group in Chicago of just photographers who didn't have reps, and they kind of banded together, and they would try. They were calling the local Chicago offices and saying, "Hey, we're a group of people, blah blah blah. Can we come in?" And I thought that was clever. That was a clever way of people who aren't repped. Maybe they want to get a rep and they can't, or they're like, I just handle my own stuff. Everybody works differently, so it works for them. And I thought that was nice because sometimes it is hard to sit with one person one-on-one. Yeah. And now I can't have like 30 creatives come by to meet just you. Like, there's not enough time for that. But like if it's an event, then it's better. Yeah. So, and it gives them more eyeballs from the creative side.
And they exist. Even when you have a rep, I feel like photographers often get into their own bubble of what they know. Yeah. And it's not wrong. It's just like, it's not like they are in a office full of photographers where they walk down the hall and they're like, what do you think? You don't have someone to always bounce ideas off of. Right. Yeah. So being able to kind of be together that way is positive. So, so anyway, I think we can wrap up.
Oh, okay, great.
But I always ask somebody one question before the end. If they didn't produce, if you weren't doing this, what would you be doing?
If money was not an object, well, traveling, but then also just helping my friends at their small businesses. Like my friend's got a cafe, another friend's got a tile shop, so I would go back to tiling. Just weird little things and help my friends with their small businesses.
That would be incredibly rewarding.
Yeah. Oh, my catering friend.
Oh
Let
my
me
God.
chop salad for you today.
And the production involved behind that, you kill it. So that was awesome.
Awesome. Well, thank you
so much. I appreciate it. I know they're waiting for the room, so we'll be quick to get out of here, but thank you for your time.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Heather, for stopping by.
Thanks for listening. In an industry where the rules are always changing, it's helpful to hear from those on the front line. Heather Elder is the visionary behind notesfromarepsjournal.com. Visit her website for industry updates, stunning photography and video, and the artist behind the work.